Hey Sarah, it's Dr. Scott. So I have some feedback for you on your second essay, the visual analysis. And what I'll do in this video is just kind of walk you through some of the feedback that I have. I have just a few notes and comments that are on the side of your essay that you'll see in Blackboard, and I just use that to kind of remind me of things to talk to you about. So if you have questions about that stuff, check the video out because I usually go through and explain it, and if there's stuff that's still confusing, let me know and I can clarify it. Overall, this is a really strong draft, Sarah. I'm quite proud of you. I think the thesis statement is pretty strong. I think that you're making a claim and supporting it with evidence for the most part. There's going to be a couple things I'm going to ask you to do for the revision, just because you're not hitting all of the stuff that I'm trying to get you to learn for this essay. And I just want to see evidence that you can kind of get it. So those four things that I really wanted you to learn was to make sure you had a solid thesis statement, make sure that you're using details to support your thoughts. And then the areas where I think that you struggled a little bit more than others was integrating sources and organizing your ideas. So I'm going to need to see some work on that. Okay, integrating sources. So here, what I need to be able to see is that you're transitioning a bit more from your thoughts to a source. So you go from, by demonstrating bravery, courage, and the willingness to give their lives for what they believe is right, our military service members earn that respect. And then you go into this source, Conrad, and the connection between the two there needs to be some transitioning going in there. It's pretty abrupt to go from what you're saying to what Conrad is saying. So there needs to be a bit more transitioning before it. There also needs to be more discussion after it so that we know how it relates to what it is you're trying to say. I am going to ask that you revise this paragraph here because it's pretty unclear to me like what it is you're trying to get across. And I was a bit concerned because I read this paragraph first and I was like, oh no, what's going to happen here? But then the rest of the essays had pretty clear paragraphs. Like it was clear to me like what each paragraph was going to try and do. So for me, this paragraph, I wasn't sure like what you were trying to get across. Like maybe Dafford's uses symbols to show the respect that the town has for its service members. It was just kind of confusing to me to kind of figure out what it is you're trying to say there. So I think this paragraph definitely needs revision before it gets that stamp of approval for a satisfactory essay. You end with a really interesting idea that I wasn't sure like how it related to the rest of the paragraph. Conveys the idea of respect by showing the determination the soldiers had for working together and defending their position, defeating the enemy, and fighting for what they believed in. I think that's a really interesting idea up until here. Fighting for what they believed in, there's not really evidence in the murals that suggest that, but there is definitely evidence for this and definitely evidence for this. So I think that might be a cool thing to organize a paragraph around, but I'm just not sure like what this paragraph was, what it was really trying to do. So I thought that paragraph needed some revision. Here you do a much better job of kind of talking about both murals and having some kind of unified argument or having some kind of claim about it. There were places where I think your thoughts about the military kind of crept in a little too much. These soldiers selflessly and willingly risk their health and their lives for the idea that we are all born with certain privileges and freedoms. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you have clear thoughts about what you think about the military, and I think that kind of colored the way that you took a look at the murals. I think there's evidence for some of the things that you claim. There's other things that, I don't know if there is really evidence to kind of support some of the stuff that you're saying. By and large, though, you do a great job of using details from the murals to support your thoughts, and that's really what the important point was. I just want to remind you that sometimes what we think about things aren't really, like we read into murals or art or literature or what have you with our assumptions, and sometimes we need to keep those a little bit more separate. Solid paragraph here. This is probably my favorite. One of the bigger issues that you'll need to address is like how you're organizing ideas. So you go from this paragraph here that I'm still not sure what's going on there, what the point of that paragraph is, and then you go to these paragraphs that have a much clearer focus. but I'm never quite sure why we're going from one to the other. Like, why go from this to the courage idea to unity? Like, why that progression? And it doesn't seem to be that there doesn't seem to be much of a reason for that progression, and there really does need to be. I mean, organization is one of the criteria that I'm looking for in this assignment. Okay, so here's what I can live with as far as like going forward and revising. One, the essay needs to have the visuals integrated. That was part of the assignment. It's a smaller criteria, but it's something that I'd like to see you work into your essay. I think the integration of sources, definitely that earlier one. We need to know. I need to see that you can integrate a source a little bit more effectively than that. So that needs to get worked in. That second paragraph just needs to be clear, like what it is you're trying to get across. And then organization of paragraphs in general, it needs to be clear, like how and why we're moving from one idea to another, and there needs to be some transitioning there. We've talked a little bit about that this semester, but also during the bridge we talked about transitioning. You can show me evidence that you do those things. This essay is good to go. I think it's going to be satisfactory. It's one of the ones that were a bit further along than the others. So let's talk grade for a second. I have that done 2-point scale. 2, it's satisfactory, it's good to go. 0, it's way off the mark. I think you're close to having this ready. I'll go through the rubric really quick. Thesis statement is satisfactory. I thought you did a solid job there. Supporting details, I'd like to see more in places. I'm not going to require that you do that for this assignment because you've shown me in places in this essay that you get it. So actually I'll move that to satisfactory. Organization and transitions, you got a bit of work to do there. It's not clear to me. The paragraph is organized, like inside the paragraph, but the paper, as far as like how the ideas are arranged, that needs a bit of work. Also need more work with integrating a source. So this essay is really close. Show me evidence that you get those other issues that I talked about. The visual, that second essay, or that second paragraph, the getting that source integrated earlier, and then how you're organizing your paragraphs. Work on those 4 issues, and this essay is good to go. All right, Sarah. There'll be time in class on Monday to work on some of this and to ask me questions, but this is a really good draft. Proud of you. Talk to you soon.